Hey folks, welcome to Doc Talk. It's going to be a great show today. I have Mark Spare on the show back to talk more about anaplasmosis in beef cattle, how you can prevent it, things that we're learning about the disease. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very, very informational. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Thomson, for having me.
It's always a pleasure to have Mark Spare here. Mark is a veterinary student. He's a PhD candidate here at Kansas State University, works with me, Dr. Hanslachek, works in our diagnostic lab in Department of Diagnostic Medicine and Pathobiology. And you're doing some incredible work with anaplasmosis and really some things that are doing some things here for the industry. But let's just kind of go back and recap what anaplasmosis is, where we're at with this disease in cattle.
Yes, sir. Last time we talked about anaplasmosis being a bacterium. It's a member of the Rickettsia family, which kind of puts it in a class by itself. But what it does is it enters an animal and infects the red blood cells, replicates in the red blood cells, and then it erupts from those red blood cells and spreads to other red blood cells in the animal. And then later that animal begins to recognize that those red blood cells are damaged or sick and strips those off in the spleen, and the clinical signs we see in an animal are due to the decrease in red blood cell concentration in that animal, called the pack cell volume. And so those clinical signs we'll see are jaundice. They might get yellowed or pale, mucous membranes. You can see that in the mouth or in the vulva in a female animal. They'll get aggressive when they get hypoxic due to that lack of red blood cells. But yeah, it's kind of an insidious bacteria because it takes so long to build to that concentration that's damaging. You won't actually see those clinical signs for 3, maybe 4 weeks in an animal.
So we'll see the animals that become hypoxic, they're weak, they're jaundiced. But talk to me a little bit about which animals it affects. Because a lot of times we're not worried about the calves, we're more worried about the heifers or the cows.
That's exactly right. And what we found, what we found historically and currently, is that the younger animals seem to not, they can be infected, but they seem to not exhibit clinical signs to the severity of adult animals. Some people will say maybe 3 different groups of animals, as in calves that are birth to 6 months, year old, and then year to 2 years old, and then 2 years or 2.5 years older and up, they'll have different clinical signs. But I'd say on the whole, a calf 1 year to 2 years old are probably not going to be as severely affected as those adult animals, and those are different expressions of immunity, but also it's the severity of that anemia to which that animal falls subject to.
So this is a little bit different. This isn't like 2 animals sneeze and they just breathe it in. This is a blood-borne pathogen.
Yeah.
So how is it passed from animal to animal, or what are some of the common ways?
Exactly. And what we find, there's mechanical vectors which transfer infected blood. And so that would be biting flies, horse flies, and stable flies are what we commonly attribute that to. Mosquitoes maybe to a certain extent, but mostly those 2 flies. Iatrogenic vectors, which is us, which is you.
Needles,
ear punches, bangs, tattooers, tattoo guns. Those are iatrogenic vectors. And then we find ticks also can communicate this. And ticks are different in that they're biological vectors. They actually can magnify the disease in their midgut, and then when they regurgitate that in their salivary glands, they can communicate that to a greater extent, and we find some strain identification changes.
Perfect.
Through ticks.
Folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more with Mark Spare on anaplasmosis. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. I'm Dan Thomson and I'm here with Mark Spare. We're at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where Mark is working on his PhD and also finishing up his DVM here, and has been a wealth of knowledge for all of us. And one of the things, Mark, I wanted to compliment you on is that, you know, it's not what degrees you hold. It's what you put into your studies, what you put into your thought process, your experiences. And I always tell students, don't let school get in the way of your education. And you have been an example for other students and faculty to follow, and I appreciate all that you've done. Let's talk a little bit about anaplasmosis and some of the things that you're learning through the research that you're doing.
Good, Dr. Thompson. One of the things that struck me as I've really dug into this disease, and I am very thankful for your compliment, and I'm blessed by the opportunities that I have to be exposed to the extent that I have. One of the things about anaplasmosis that I'd like for us to think about, and your viewers, is that there are multiple strains of this disease. And it's very easy for me to think of anaplasmosis, Anaplasma marginale, as one single identity, but actually there's a number of different strains across the U.S. and across the world. This is a disease that actually does plague the rest of the world as well. And in that, we find different levels of virulence, so different herds, even in the same year in a given location, may be affected differently, not because of the susceptibility necessarily of their animals, but because the strains are different. And we talked about the ticks. When those ticks actually take in that infected blood meal and become infected themselves, and specifically thinking of the dog ticks or the Dermacentor variabilis ticks, we find that when they bring that bacteria back up, there may be a number of different genotypes found in their midgut. And then in their salivary glands, it's a little more of a bottleneck. But what I understand is we expect a mutation in the genotype, the genetic makeup of that bacteria, about 1 every 1 million copies. So after 1 million copies, we expect that to be a different expression of proteins on the surface of that bacteria.
So you do it 1 million times, there's going to be a glitch, right?
There's going to be a glitch.
It's not going to be perfect. And
That's
so
right.
those glitches then give us a different type of variation of the same bacterium, or and so it's just a little bit different in the way that it would infect or affect the animal.
Yeah, and different in the response, and different in maybe the protection that we find, different in the way it's affected maybe by a fed antibiotic. Those are hypothetical. I don't have research necessarily to back those different effects up, but it is a different bacteria, and in that we can track the length of time that some of these herds have been infected based on the differences we find throughout the herd in genetic makeup, but also we can identify, hopefully, different background strains that are existing and coexisting in a similar area, a similar environment.
It's absolutely amazing, and the more that we learn about the strains, the more important it is to get. We had 30 seconds to go to break here, but it really gets back to the importance of diagnostics.
That's exactly right, and what it comes down to, the strains. What I want viewers to understand is that when things are affecting their herd negatively, there may be a bigger picture. There may be a bigger picture, and it's important to bring in some diagnosticians, your local vet, to really help understand the picture and how we can prevent this going forward, not why did this happen to me and not the neighbor.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Folks, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more on anaplasmosis with Mark Sparrow.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from DocTalk. Have you asked yourself, how can I help provide relief to wildfire victims? Well, you can go to the Ashland Community Foundation, or you can go to the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation and make monetary gifts. Another way, you can buy this beautiful print that was painted by Dr. Eva Gardner of the Gardner Angus Ranch of Ashland and Clark County area before the fire. This painting will be sold through the Kansas Livestock Association Foundation, and all proceeds will be provided to victims of the wildfire.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica, Inc.
I'm Dr. Kip Lukasevich with Production Animal Consultation. Today's BQA Tip of the Day is bud box facilities. We're at a feed yard today that has a bud box. It's becoming more and more popular. The advantage of the bud box is that it's a facility that has open sides. It has one solid side, which is the gate, which they come in through. But it takes advantage of cattle's natural behavior in that cattle like to see what's pressuring them, and they like to return where they came from. And so the way our alley is set up is so that the cattle come into the box first, and they make a turn, and they come back around, and then they go right down into the double feed alley, and they go straight, which cattle prefer. The advantage of the bud box is that if we have one that is giving us problems going into the alley, and sometimes that happens, we have a gate here that we can swing and bring around to narrow that up and have him go in. And if we have one that is kind of ornery and doesn't want to cooperate with us that way, we can easily come through here and come through the gate and work from the outside. And if we need to, we can have a flag or something that we can utilize to work from the outside and have the cattle come in as well. Both ways work really well, and that's how you stay safe working in a bud box.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
We do business with Blueville because of the quality of their work. It is excellent quality, and because they make a commitment to their customers.
We enjoy the benefits of hiring a good company to help us maintain this home.
We will always do business with Blueville. We have for many, many years, and there's no reason for us to look for any other service.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here with Mark Sparrow, and we're talking about anaplasmosis. And you know, you said something as we were leaving the last segment that, you know, when we think about prevention or we think about the different strains, and you know, when we're in class, the thing we keep repeating is there's two reasons why an animal gets sick. Either an overwhelming dose of a pathogen, which can go back to that if you get a strain that's very virulent,
That's
that
right.
causes more damage or more disease than maybe some of the other strains, or a suppressed immune system.
Exactly.
And so it's either something that the animal can't fight off, or something that the animal isn't able to fight off.
Exactly.
Disease based on not having a good, healthy immune system.
Exactly. Exactly, Dr. Thomson. And so I really think having a perspective with those 2 points in mind is a good way to practice our herd health, and to start with preventing anaplasmosis by having a good herd health program. When we find an outbreak of anaplasmosis, knowing that the two reasons that an outbreak may occur are we have a very virulent organism or we have an immune suppressed herd, what could we have done to prevent that? And so an anaplasmosis outbreak very well could go hand in hand with an exposure to a BVD pathogen, which my herd was not prepared for. And BVD we understand to be an immune suppressive disease. It's a pestivirus. I just learned about that in virology. And what that does is that can create a transiently immunosuppressed animal, much less or much more. It can cause pregnant animals to produce a persistently infected calf, but that's another topic for another time. But that disease, that virus can be come and gone, but the lingering effects on your herd could leave it susceptible to an overwhelming challenge of anaplasmosis from maybe a wet spring and a high tick burden.
Yeah.
And so we find a conglomeration of events there.
Yeah, when you start to bring back the triad of host, pathogen, and environment.
That's exactly right.
You know, if we have an overgrowth of some vegetation, or you don't burn, or just different things that might increase the number of ticks. We really haven't developed a tick fence yet to keep
Not
them out.
yet, not yet.
I'm going to patent that one.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. It's not Wrangler jeans, I can tell you that.
They get through those.
Yeah.
Huh? But you know, it's. I think that we focus so much on anaplas. The one thing you've made me think about in this segment and in the other segments is, are you developing a herd health plan and building a healthy cow herd?
That's right.
That can fight off being, maybe it's the same ticks as your neighbors.
That's right.
The difference is the plan that you've put in place is better or worse than someone else's.
That's right.
So working with your local veterinarian obviously is extremely important to develop these.
That's right. Your local veterinarian, what we would hope and what we train here at K-State, I think, and do a good job, is helping veterinarians think about the prevalence of diseases in their area. So in your area as a producer, what diseases are present? What do we need to be worried about vaccinating for? There may be diseases in eastern Kansas or even the eastern United States that they worry about more than we worry about here, and your local veterinarian will have a good handle on that.
Yep, and when we think about biosecurity, that's trying to keep the disease out. And so there are management practices we can do for anaplasmosis, keeping our equipment clean, new needles, new sleeves, things of that nature, new herd introductions, things that are going to help with that. And then, you know, the keeping the cow healthy.
Exactly.
And all of it can relate. When we come back, we're going to do a wrap up with Mark Spare here, and we're going to talk more about anaplasmosis and maybe a few of the myths, and we return.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
As fourth-generation farmers themselves, Heinen Brothers Ag Service understands the risk and rewards of farming. So when it comes to quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia, call Heinen Brothers Ag today, 800-760-4964.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
There's a lot of different ways of doing this woodwork, but I could not make a knife without both hands, especially without this thumb. And my thumb was so sore that I couldn't even touch it, and they wanted to fuse it, and I said no, cut it off, because I didn't want it sticking up. And I found out about the Kansas regenerative stem cell and went to Manhattan and had that taken care of in my thumb, and now I'm able to go again.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook or Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dan Thomson here with Mark Spare. We're at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where we're talking about anaplasmosis. And you know, whenever we get into disease, whether it's bovine respiratory disease or anaplasmosis or pink eye, the first thing that producers gravitate toward is the managing it with a bottle and a syringe. And we talk about vaccines and we talk about antibiotics, and really, you know, the vaccine may not allow animals to show clinical signs, but it doesn't keep them from getting the disease. And the antibiotics are kind of like Dumbo's feather a lot of times. We have them out there, but you know, that Dumbo couldn't fly unless he had a hold of that feather.
That's right.
A lot of producers think that if I don't have that CTC out there, I can't keep my cattle from getting anaplasmosis. And Mark, you're seeing stuff on persistent infection and things to that nature that this just isn't true.
Well, I will preface, we have a lot to learn about anaplasmosis still, and the research will be ongoing. Right, it is very fruitful, and we're excited about what we are seeing. But things that I really would like for producers to think about and understand is that when we use a vaccine for anaplasmosis, that we do anticipate it to prevent clinical signs. When we put CTC out in our mineral and feed as labeled for the control of active infection of anaplasmosis, we expect it to prevent or control clinical signs. But we do not expect either of those two tools to prevent necessarily infection. And there will be pharmacokinetic and pharmacologic studies that go on to understand that better, and there may be some strain dependence there. But what we must understand is that when an animal is infected in our herd, if she or he survives, in which probably 30 to 50% mortality in an adult animal. But if that animal survives, they can and will serve as a reservoir for the disease for the rest of your naive animals. And they don't go away.
Right.
We don't see the clearance so much of anaplasmosis as we used to talk about 20 years ago. So if you don't understand it that way, you very well could spread that to the rest of your naive animals. And when you talk about 30 to 50% mortality in an untreated animal, that can be very significant.
Well, and you get right to the heart of the matter of when you're talking about creating that healthy cow herd. We probably have so many more carriers out there than we ever thought to anaplasmosis. But if you can keep building that healthy immune system in your cows and your calves and your bulls, they may be carriers or they may be exposed, but they don't succumb to the disease.
Yeah, and I want to be careful because we do have a lot to learn, and there will be some management recommendations come out, but there is not a one-size-fits-all recommendation here. And I think that's important to recognize that work with your local vet, work with your diagnostician out of K-State, work with your extension agents to ascertain how high is the risk here. What moves do I need to do to strategically protect my cows and my product from becoming infected and severely afflicted by anaplasmosis?
Can be pretty devastating. I appreciate you being on the show.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks for all the work that you're doing. More will come out of this summer's research and findings, but probably the most thorough anaplasmosis research project ever done right here at K-State by Mark Spare. Thanks for watching us today. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. If you want to find out what we do, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.